always knew veganism was bogus, but my mind was really blown when I watched the documentary Beyond Impossible, how the fake meat industry is lying to you. The way these crops and plants are grown for the plant-based meat industries kills more animals and living things than the meat industry could even dream of. You don't have to watch the documentary to listen to this interview, but if you want to pause this, watch, and come back, Beyond Impossible is the doc that really drew me in because it exposes the corruption of the fake meat industry and how it ties in with the sinister plans of a global elite. Harvard University, internet vegans, and the World Economic Forum all have one thing in common: a religious desire for the world to go vegan. My guest today who made this documentary is a celebrity fitness trainer, best-selling author of Fitness Confidential, Adventures in the Weight Loss Game, speaker, podcaster, and he also made Fat, the documentary, which explains how the very misinformation and lies we told people on how to lose weight the last several decades actually made us fatter than ever. Subscribe and make sure you always leave the Spillover a 5-star review to support us. It is an honor to have the legendary VinnieTortorich on the Spillover. You've had a rock star life. You are a celebrity fitness trainer. You've written best-selling books. You've done documentaries. You've set trends in the health space. So talk about the moment that you really decided, you know what, I think I'm going to expose the entire plant-based cult now for the frauds that they are.
Well, that's interesting because I didn't set out to, people who are plant-based, well, we used to call them vegans. And then they realize that their own connotation of being a vegan. Think about it, when you hear vegan, you realize it's not a good thing, right? So you hear vegan, you go, okay, this guy drives a Prius and his feet smell for whatever reason, right? Or he smells like feet. And he's got a man bun. We have a certain connotation when you hear. So they went, okay, we're going to change it to plant-based. I'm not upset with those people because a lot of vegans want to do the right thing. Like they're sitting there thinking, hey, I'm doing this because I want to be healthy. So who am I upset with? I'm upset with the leaders of the vegan cult. And when I say cult, I'm not being funny. It's a cult. They're backed by PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. And they are also co-opted by, some of the food companies. And we could get into that later if you want to. So then they get these doctors to lie. As a matter of fact, my movie, Beyond Impossible, I was trying to bring vegans to the table. I wanted everyone to be in this movie. And I think you've seen the movie, right, Alex?
Oh, yeah, more than once, because I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, you noticed in a movie, I didn't just say that I invited vegans to the table. I couldn't sit there and show all of the rejection letters because there was way too many. But I took some of the biggest vegan doctors that we know, the superstars like Michael Greger and McDougall and some of these people, just to name a few, and also Walter Willett over at Harvard, who runs Harvard. I showed their letters back to me on screen. I showed the letter I wrote to them, and then the letter we got back.
Vinnie reached out to all of these people that are the thought leaders, so to speak, in the vegan and plant-based industries. He said, hey, I'm doing a documentary. I just want to get to the truth. Let's debate about it. I'm anti, you're for it. Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. No one would agree to come on the documentary. Not one person, right?
Not one. As a matter of fact, we went back to him. There was one, Dr. McDougall said that he would come on. He goes, yeah, I'll come on. But I'm not signing a release. Okay. You can't, anyone who's in someone's movie, you sign a release. It's like, so that's not going to happen. And then we said, okay, no release, no go. That's a non-starter for any movie, right? Think of any show you might watch. I don't know, let's say you watch The Bachelor or The Bachelorette or whatever, and you see them and they're out on the street, right? You'll see them blocking out people's faces because you can't get people's faces in the shot without getting their permission, right? You got to get those people to sign a release.
But what are they so scared of with you? What is so scary about you to these vegan people?
I don't know, because I even said, I'll send you the questions ahead of time. I'm asking you and the other side the same 13 questions. That's it. By the way, no one on the other side asked to see the questions, but a few of the vegans said, I'd like to see the questions. Here they are. Answer these. And they were like, no, can do. Can't do. And when you ask me what they're afraid of, I've had an open invitation. I've done now 2,300 podcasts, the Fitness Confidential podcast, 2,300 over the past 11 years. I've had an open invitation to all, not just any vegan down the street. I don't want some, skateboard, patchouli wearing, dude coming on my show, but any of the thought leaders in the vegan community, and they know who they are. Open invitation. You can come on my show, and here's going to be the first question. As a vegan, if we did not have exogenous vitamins, vitamin B12, if you cannot take a vitamin that you buy in the drugstore, where would a vegan get B12? And once you successfully answer that question, you can ask me anything you want.
And why is that important? Why is that an important question for them to answer? What does it expose?
We have 13 essential vitamins. Essential means your body will not make it. It means you have to take these vitamins. If you don't get these vitamins, you die. B12 is one of them. As a matter of fact, there are other vitamins that you get in such limited supply that it's criminal. But that's why if you see on cereals, it'll say, we give you 8 essential vitamins and iron, right? Because in a vegan diet, they're lacking in iron and they're lacking in most of the B vitamins. So Kellogg's will spray it onto the product so right. You can, it's a bastardized version of the vitamins. Is not the best version you're going to get.
The trolls love to discredit me and say that my skin only looks the way it does because of filler and Botox, which is very funny and also untrue. The lifespan of Botox is 3 months. Mine right now, I'm just telling you the truth, is completely dissolved. The last time I got any was almost 10 months ago now, and I have maybe like a third of filler left in my lips right now. That's also almost gone. Unsure if I'm going to get that touched up at all, but I don't get filler anywhere else in my face. The truth is, my skin is just in the best shape it's ever been thanks to, I believe, a serious diet overhaul and skincare that just works. I use Nimi skincare. It's modern skincare with timeless values. You're getting peptides, retinol, vitamin C, all the stuff that works by people who also believe in freedom, family, femininity, and faith. Their cleansers don't strip the skin, and the hydrating retinol moisturizer has aloe vera and jojoba oil in it, so you get the power of retinol without the tight, dried out feeling. Their peptide cream supports collagen and elastin production, giving an overall youthful look. Try Nimi Skincare at NimiSkincare.com with my code AlexClark for 10% off. That's NimiSkincare.com with code AlexClark for 10% off, or find the link in the show notes. Okay, so let's go into how you decided to make this documentary in the first place. I mean, with being a celebrity fitness trainer, were you just seeing all of a sudden a bunch of celebrity clients that were getting duped into this vegan life and you were like, wait a minute, okay, as a health expert, this is not healthier? Or what was it about the whole vegan diet that concerned you?
Well, look, I was in Hollywood for 30 years and I've worked with everybody and their cousin. And believe it or not, what people don't realize about actors, they think actors are pampered little, babies, right? Actors are type A personality people. And I had actors who were vegan, but when you say, okay, we need to put on some muscle for this role, right? You're going to be in this movie and they want you to be muscled up. You're going to be an action star for this movie. I would say to him, listen, we're not going to get you there without you eating red meat. They drop the vegan diet like a bad habit. They just drop it like first period French. It's done. And they keep it that way until after the movie. And then they'll go back when they can go back to being a skinny wimp again. They'll go back to the vegan diet. But these people, when you said this is what it takes, the studios hired me to get you in this kind of shape, your agents, everybody, your managers, they just change, right? All but maybe, I could think of maybe three vegans in Hollywood, and I'm actually friends with all three of them. So I'm not going to out them, right?
So you're saying
I
it's
could think
all,
of,
the whole thing is a lie. I mean, none of these people that are like, I'm vegan or whatever because I care about animals, they're not even actually eating true vegan diets.
most of, like, I can say there's some of them. My friend Alexandra Paul, she'll just say, I'm not going to do the movie. There's some people who live by that, they will not touch meat, right? But we call them, and they call themselves Chegans. They cheat on the vegan diet. They dub themselves Chegans. I know a couple of vegan athletes who are on the internet, and they have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers going, hey, I can run 24 hours without stopping, and I'm a vegan, right? I'm this vegan athlete, yet they're Chegans. I know this because I've worked out with them.
Wow.
So, you're telling a lie to push an agenda that doesn't actually work.
Talk about the difference between veganism and vegetarianism. I mean, it sounds simple, but the belief systems between the two for people that are just very new to this or ignorant about it.
Vegetarianism is actually almost kind of healthy, right? It's, I've asked vegans in the past, I said, listen, if you're a vegan for ethical reasons, like you think that you're not killing animals, which again, that's a lie. You saw that in the movie. I could have done 90 minutes just on that. And I get it. You don't want to eat anything that had a face or that could look at you. I get it. Sentient beings. But if you're a vegan because you think you're being healthy, we need to stop you. Or if you are against killing sentient beings, but you're okay with eggs, a lot of times you can get vegetarians to eat eggs, right? It's an embryo. You could get some of them to eat fish, pescatarians. You can get them to eat fish. So now you're getting them closer. A lot of vegetarians will eat dairy products, milk, cheese. This is getting, you're now getting a higher amino acid complex, diet. And now you're almost there, right? You can actually be a healthy vegetarian, but the penultimate is to eat red meat. So the difference is one will kind of shade the gray area. The other one is, we're dug in, this is it. And that's why most vegans stop being vegan in the first 3 to 6 months.
But who was the original person that was like, hey, you know what? I have a great idea. How about we basically only eat these 2 items and this somehow is going to bring peak health? Like, who was this person? And what was it that they thought was such irrefutable evidence that veganism was like the end all be all best healthy diet?
Oh, Alex, young Alex. Oh, darling, you need to go back and watch my first documentary called Fat, a Documentary.
Tell us.
It was the one that started it all. Most people think veganism, like when I ask people, I'll ask you, how long do you think veganism has been around in the world?
Since the 90s. Like, I'm thinking it's so new.
Okay, you know what? Most people would say, "Oh, it's been around since biblical times, since Jesus was walking the earth."
No, because it was impossible. People didn't have all these options. Like, you could only eat like a few animals that were around you,
right? And vegetation and whatever you can find, right? Veganism. There's a church called the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I'm sure you've heard of it, and not a bad church. I don't have anything against the Seventh-day Adventists at all. But in around 1865, now, I don't have the year exactly right, but around 1865, I think Lincoln was in office during that period. Ellen G. White was a woman who worked for she was like an upper echelon in the church. And she woke up one morning and she said, Jesus came to me last night during my sleep. Now,
red flag number 1.
Yeah, well, look, if I woke up tomorrow morning and I tell my wife, Jesus came to me in my sleep, she would have me committed by noontime. They would, oh, we need to get you help, honey. It's going to be okay. No. But in 1865, Ellen G. White said, Jesus came to me in my sleep. And instead of having men in white coats come and haul her away, they said, oh, what did Jesus tell you? And she said, Jesus said that we shouldn't eat anything with a face. So any animal that can look at you, any sentient being, we can't eat that. Well, that was a problem. because we didn't discover the first vitamin, is what it was called, when a German person discovered it in around 1920, 1925. I can't really remember. We discovered the first vitamin, and then we discovered that there were 12 more. So there's 13 vitamins in total that we need to sustain life. So anyone who tried to become a vegan back in 1865 could not do it in actuality because you would die. You would die from veganism. But by the 1950s, we were coming up with exogenous vitamins, Centrum, if you will, just some kind of way for people to get vitamins because we had discovered all of them. Now you had a small cult of people who said, oh, we can live this way and just take these exogenous vitamins. But it really did not take hold until the I want to say 1960. Well, Ansel Keys came around when Eisenhower had a heart attack and said, okay, it was because he was eating red meat.
And that was the 60s.
No, that was 1957.
Okay.
And in 1957, Eisenhower had a heart attack. Ansel Keys from Minnesota University said, it's from all the meat.
And we hear that all the time. My dad has major heart issues. He's had multiple heart attacks and all this. And every time the doctors are like, too much red meat.
We're still stuck on that, Alex. But here's the deal. The part that Ansel Keys left out was that Dwight D. Eisenhower smoked north of 3 packs of cigarettes per day, every day. Let's not look at that as a reason the guy had a heart attack. Let's look at the fact that he also ate red meat. So did every other American. So Ansel Keys started going down this road. In 1968, the left was running for office. And as the left always likes to do, and I think it's a brilliant thing to do, hey, let's give people a lot of free stuff and they'll vote for us. It works. They've been doing that since the beginning of time. So, the right does their own things like, hey, let's make everyone scared and they'll vote for us, right? Mm-hmm. And so both parties have their thing, right? Mm-hmm. And they work like a charm. So the left went, okay, we need to give people some more free stuff. So Kennedy goes down, Robert Kennedy, because the other Kennedy was already dead. He said, you know what, there's a lot of poor people down south. So we're going to create food stamps. But we can't just create this willy-nilly. If I want to run in a couple of years, I have to do something really big. So they started something called the McGovern Committee. So McGovern sets up this committee and they're going to study hunger in America. And of course, within a couple of years, they figured out, oh, wait, we can now give people food stamps and no one will be hungry. Well, that people are still hungry, by the way. So, and we still have food stamps. We call it something else now, but it's still there. Nonetheless, the McGovern Committee met from 1968 to 1978, 10 years. 10 years. Now, let's think about that. We just had the committee for the September 6th thing happen.
You mean January?
I'm sorry, January 6th. Thank you. I'm old. So the January 6th committee met. How long did they meet?
I don't know how long they met.
They met for a couple of weeks. It was on television. It was like 3 weeks. Can you imagine that going on for 10 years?
No. So what was this group trying to meet about with the food stamps?
Remember Ansel Keys back in 1957, 58?
Yeah.
They had pushed food stamps through, but they just kept the committee open and they just kept meeting because they were Ansel Keys was trying to push this thing into, hey, let's say that meat is bad and vegetables are good. So when the committee ended 10 years later, they just threw their hands up and went, and I have this all on film, by the way. I have the actual footage. You can see it in a documentary. At the end of it, they just said, I don't know, let's just go with eat less meat, eat more vegetables. And right after that, we adopted the food pyramid from a different country. We just made it our food pyramid. And then right at that moment, we started getting fat as a nation.
The whole food pyramid scam is one of my absolute favorite rabbit holes to go down, because I mean, once you find out how the government lied about that, then I think it really makes sense. Oh, well, they lie about all these other things too. I mean, big food is no exception to all the other lies that were sold by the government. And I know that my audience definitely believes that. So you decide to make this documentary. Was it because you just saw how popular in the mainstream and pop culture and everybody was making veganism, making it seem like it was just this victimless thing, it makes everybody healthier, and you just knew that wasn't true? Or what wasn't adding up for you that made you feel like I have to speak up on this?
Meaning the first movie?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah. So I was out in Hollywood and people, the podcast got really popular. My book, Fitness Confidential, became a big deal. And, I was on talk shows and everything, and everyone's like, you should put all this together. You have all this knowledge, put all of this together and do a documentary. And I was like, I'm not a filmmaker. Well, one day I was leaving the Adam Carolla show, and the guy that was coming to take my seat for the second half of the show, he said, hey man, I'm a big fan. I've lost a lot of weight, following you. I was like, oh, geez, thanks. And we traded numbers, and he called me. I called him because I looked him up, and he had just done a movie on a documentary on the band Chicago. And guys my age, we grew up on that band, right? And I was like, oh my God, this is great. And I called him, said, man, great documentary. And then I had him in to do a show with me. And he said, you should really do the documentary. And I said, Peter, I have no idea how to do it. He goes, I'll do it with you. I said, I don't have the money to do that. It's a lot of money. I mean, everyone's telling me it's $500,000. He goes, we can do it for $150,000. I will work for free. We both know people in Hollywood. We could get camera people to work for free. Let's put this together. So I said, 150, that's still kind of steep. I don't know if I want to part with that kind of money. And he said, well, let's crowdfund it. And so we crowdfunded it and got well over $250,000. We were asking for 150 and got $250,000. And we were off and running. And we did this first documentary. It was picked up by Gravitas Ventures. It was put out around the world. I would be on airplanes and I would see my documentary up there. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe. I would show everyone on the airplane sitting next to me. It's like, and there was a young girl like you sitting next to me one day with the headset on. And I'm sitting on a plane. I'm like, honey, listen, that. And she looked at me as if to go, hey, oh man, leave me alone. I was just so proud of this thing being on airlines and just on, on Amazon and everywhere else around the world.
And the first documentary, Fat, right?
Yeah.
What was that exposing, the premise of that first documentary?
It showed how we got fat. I went against the pyramid. I talked about Ansel Keys. I went back to 1865. I talked about Ellen G. White. I brought it all up from 1865 to present day, all in 90 minutes. And it really took the world by storm, much to my surprise.
Why do you think it was so shocking to people?
I don't think anyone ever thought about it. A lot of people, we got, I call them cards and letters because I'm old, but we got tons of email. I ended up having to hire someone just to help me answer emails. And that woman's still employed by me. People, wait, you mean the pyramid's wrong? You mean heart healthy grains are not heart healthy? It was all of these things that were exposed that no one knew about. No one knew about this stuff. And it was crazy making to the rest of the world. Right. And because that did so well, we ended up doing Fat. The whole name of the movie is called Fat, a documentary. And then it was so good that we did Fat, a documentary 2. And that was probably a better movie, but it still never beat, the first documentary did really well. Yeah. The first one was like, it's like doing Rocky 1 and then doing Rocky 2. It's going to do well, but not as well. And then, of course, when we did Beyond Impossible, that thing just meteoric. It's still.
But why do you think that? Why do you think that Beyond Impossible ended up having such a cultural impact? When you're just like, hey, I think the whole vegan stuff is a sham. I mean, did you expect that to get the same reaction as the first documentary?
I didn't. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't think anyone was going to watch any of the 3, if I'm being very frank. But the third one, I was just looking at look, I ask myself questions, right? And then I try to fill in the answers. I'm a curious person. I've been doing that my entire life. So I see Beyond Burgers and Impossible Meat and all this stuff, and coming out, right? It's everywhere. It becomes ubiquitous, right? And I'll look around and go, wait a minute. They're saying it's better for the planet. So at first, I just did some light Google searches.
And what did you find?
Well, the first thing I found was most of this stuff is they get it out of China, right? But they manufacture it in the United States. So I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, the ingredients are coming out of China. So somehow it has to get here. That means we need to use diesel power of some sort or jet A fuel. Either you got to put the stuff on a plane or you have to put it on a boat. Oh, by the way, they have to get the stuff. They have to mine it there. They have to, that's
basically it's none of it is Greta Thunberg approved.
Oh, Greta Thunberg would throw up if she knew the amount of energy that went into them just getting it to the United States.
Plant-based products.
The raw ingredients. And then you get it to a plant here. We actually you saw it in the movie, the plant mixing up this goo, right? And all of this stuff. And now I'm looking at, okay, now we have more CO2 carbons going into the atmosphere, more diesel fuel going into the atmosphere to run these plants, right?
But the goop for the plant-based burgers, they tell us, is healthier and it has all of these nutrients in it.
Well, you're getting ahead of me, Alex. So I was talking about the atmosphere. I was still on Greta Thunberg.
Okay.
Right. So I'm going, okay, it's not healthier for the environment. I can't imagine that a cow fart is worse than this. So now I'm looking over here and I'm going, okay, they're saying it's healthier than meat. Now, what can be more bioavailable than what we were made to eat tens of thousands of years ago, right? You can go back to Cro-Magnon man. You can go back to, whatever. Just go back to wherever you want to go back to. Whether you believe in creationism or not, you go back to what we were before. We were made to eat other animals. That's how we survived. That's how our brains became the size they are, and we are who we are. Okay, so they're saying something that's made in the lab is better than the bioavailability of meat. So then I started going down that rabbit hole. And I couldn't even get close. As a matter of fact, when I was done looking at it, because my degree is in exercise physiology and nutrition, I compared it to an Oreo, and it was kind of a wash. It's like you can have an Oreo or a Beyond Burger. They're nutritionally pretty close to the same thing. Pretty amazing, right?
Criminal.
And by the way, they're both vegan. An Oreo is vegan and the Beyond Burger is vegan. And they're both about the same. Now, folks, when you go look it up, you're going to go, well, he's lying because the Beyond Burger is a little better. It's a little more protein. Yes, I'm making a point here. It's not that different from an Oreo at the end of the day.
I got a new neighbor in my apartment complex. We were both leaving at the same time a few mornings ago, and he said, not to be weird, but sometimes if your patio is open when mine is, I can smell whatever it is you're cooking, and it smells phenomenal. I told him that's quality steak from Good Ranchers. All meat from Good Ranchers is born, bred, and raised in America, and that matters because 85% of your meat at the grocery store is coming from overseas. Good Ranchers cattle are always grass-fed and grain-finished. Their chicken is better than organic. Now, what does that mean? It means that the store, when you pick up a pack of organic chicken breasts that it says like organic, that really only refers to what the chicken ate. It doesn't mean anything about how it was raised. Good Ranchers organic chicken refers to both. Good Ranchers also banned mRNA vaccines for their animals, while other meat companies are injecting it into their cattle and pigs. And I cannot rave enough about the new prime pork at Good Ranchers. Prime pork is like prime steak. It has more marbling, better coloring, and is more tender by 25% over other pork. This is 100% mouth-watering American-raised pork that you can trust and seriously enjoy. Go to GoodRanchers.com/Clark with code Clark to get $30 off your box of America's best beef, chicken, and pork today. That's GoodRanchers.com/Clark with code Clark for $30 off. You can also find the link in the description. Good Ranchers, American meat delivered. Okay, there was an artistic choice that you made in the documentary, which was to use church music, organ music to transition from lie to lie to lie in the documentary that you were debunking. And I know that was a deliberate choice because you're proving the point of this is a religion. Everything, when you look into every aspect of veganism and the plant-based industry and plant-based diet, everything is a lie. It requires faith, just like a religion would, to believe this crap. And I thought that was a brilliant choice.
Yeah, we even got this woman. Her name is escaping. Lear Keith, to be in that movie. Lear Keith was a diehard vegan her entire life, and she came. Over the years, she was vegan for like 30 years. Her body was failing her, even with all the extra vitamins and everything she was taking. Her body was failing her miserably, and she was trying to grow her own fruit and vegetables and everything else, and she knew she was living a lie. And one day she, because she would see the amount of animals she had to kill to get that to grow, right? The insects and everything else would have to die so that she can have one head of lettuce. And one day she just woke up and said, I'm about to die. I can't live like this anymore. And I've been lying about, since I started growing my own food, I'm out there spraying pesticides and everything else. I'm killing ground squirrels and, moles and voles and everything else. This is not right.
Well, this is one of the biggest tenets of veganism is that people latch on to this belief system because they do truly feel like it's a morally superior choice when it comes to diet because nothing dies. And I know that this is something that you cover in the documentary, but for people that have not watched it and are hearing this for the very first time ever, why is it a lie that being vegan means nothing dies?
Well, when you crack land, when you just crack the land, you're killing worms, you're killing moles and voles and things that live right below the surface, right? There's a whole eco structure that just lives right underground. All of that is dying. Little furry animals, chipmunks, everything's dying just to crack the land. And then you go and you plant, right? So when you plant, now you have to spray because you have to kill every organism other than the plant. Monsanto has figured out how to kill everything except the plant. As a matter of fact, with soybeans, they've created a super soybean so that they can put their spray on it and it won't die.
Right.
Right. So it's, all these GMO foods and everything else.
Well, I just had somebody on the podcast. When this comes out, it'll have aired before you. But I have this guy who used to work for Greenpeace, left, now speaks out against Greenpeace, but he is still so gung-ho on GMOs and that they're not bad and all of this. So the audience just heard his defense of them. Now they're going to be like, wait, right. This guy doesn't like them. Well, look, why?
I don't know if GMOs are all that bad. No one has ever been able to prove if they're bad, but they are genetically modifying crops so that they can grow better under the stress of these chemicals. If you listen to William Davis, and he's got a compelling argument in his book Wheat Belly, he would explain why wheat wasn't killing us before, yet it's killing us now.
And you're talking about glyphosate.
Well, not just the glyphosates, but also, in order to get it to withstand the wind and everything else, they started genetically modifying the stalk of the wheat and to handle the glyphosates and everything else that they put on it, right? So that I don't know where William Davis got his stuff from, and I don't know how pertinent it is, but he makes a compelling argument in Wheat Belly, and it would really make you think about ever putting wheat in your mouth. But are they inherently bad? I don't know, but I don't particularly care because I would never eat it, right? You couldn't pay me enough to eat that. So getting back to everything you're killing, with the glyphosate, you're killing every worm, every bug, every, again, sentient beings are dying. And when you go to harvest this stuff, oh, wait, before you harvest it, depending on where you are in the country, you're killing large animals. And you saw that in the film. This farmer in Arkansas, they go out under the night, under the cover of night when these razorback hogs go and start eating the crops. They have night vision goggles. It's like, it's like being in the army.
Yep.
They go out and they just shoot thousands of pounds of meat per night. But there's nothing they can do with that, because where are you going to take, who's going to skin that? Who's going to, no one wants it. You can't go to someone's house at 2 a.m. and go, hey, we just killed 1,500 pounds of hogs. Would you like these? Right? No one's going to do that. In some parts of the country, they have to kill deer. They're killing Bambi. So right, you can have a tofurkey, right? They're killing Bambi. So anytime you're having tofu and you're feeling all good about yourself, Bambi died. Piggy died.
And
They've killed animals.
Is there even any vegetables in this fake meat at all? What is in this food?
I can't remember all of the ingredients, but it's a chemical S storm, as they call it. It's just chemical on top of chemical. Even the thing that makes it bleed, they call it heme.
Oh yeah, that grosses me out. It's like a plant burger, but it looks like there's blood. But what is that?
Yeah, it's just a coloring thing. It's got chemical coloring. They call it heme, and it looks like blood. It's supposed to taste like blood. They want everything about meat except meat, which is nutty. And by the way, I wish I had put more footage of this. In the combines, people think that most of the little rabbits and squirrels and everything get away from the combines. They have to stop these combines every couple of hours to pull out dead animals.
Pick out the
This is what's going
bones.
on. The guy showed me buckets, 5-gallon buckets full of dead frogs. And these are the ones that they can get to. A lot of these things get dismembered and end up in the grains.
How do you explain some of these athletes and celebrities like Cam Newton, especially talking about how like, hey, eating this meatless diet has made me stronger and faster, and now I'm the supreme athlete?
Well, Cam Newton is a great example, because he started eating a vegan diet and he was out of the league in 1 year.
The receipts.
So here's the thing. Cam Newton was one of the probably best athletes in the world, went vegan, had a simple injury and couldn't recover from it. You take someone, the guy who won the Super Bowl this year, Kansas City, really good quarterback. I can't think of his name right now, but the guy's a phenom. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes gets hurt in the playoffs. He's a meat eater. He's back next week. He gets hurt right before halftime in the Super Bowl. They passed him up, had him back in. No, this other guy gets a hangnail. His career's over. I'm paraphrasing here a bit, but
you're right.
And I can show you example after example. I go after that movie, Beyond. What do they call the movie? Game Changers, right? Where they show these athletes. That movie, I talk about it in my movie, Beyond Impossible. They showed a guy that they said this is one of the strongest men in the world.
It was
He's
like a
vegan.
weightlifting competition winner. They said like he's the #1 strongest man in the world and he's vegan.
Right. And you see, I'm what they call a nerd. And when you're a nerd, I've been watching strongman competition since the 70s. When I was a kid, they would show them on a program called Wide World of Sports. And I would watch these programs, and I've known every strongman from the 1970s until last year. And they're going, this guy's one of the strongest men in the world. And I went, wait a minute. I've never seen him in the competition. And they're saying he's a record-breaking. He doesn't even look to be of the ilk, right? He's not that size. These men.
He was lifting these little tiny weights in the documentary.
I don't even know what. It's like, I went and looked the guy up, and the guy, I found the competition he won. It was like in a town in Texas with like 1,500 people. It was a vegan festival, and they had a vegan strongman competition, and he was the strongest. So that's like saying you're the strongest of the weakest.
It's the whole thing is an illusion. The entire thing is a sham. And now we have the founder of Impossible Foods saying, hey, you know what? It's my plan to replace all the animals in the food system by 2035. That is 12 years from now. How realistic even is that?
Well, look, those same people have been calling since I was a kid. I'm 60 years old. They've been calling for the end of the world forever. I heard by 1980, California will not exist because the water will rise so much, the coastline will be somewhere around Nevada. Okay. I lived in Santa Monica for a long time, and I never saw the water coming up. I never needed to buy boots. So everything they say, like Greta Thunberg said, oh, in a couple of years, if we don't do something right now, how dare you, how dare you, how dare you, we're going to be, okay, we've already passed a couple of those dates. None of that has happened.
Yeah, she deleted the tweet. She had tweeted the world was going to
end.
Really? Then it didn't end, so she deleted it.
Yeah, just moving on. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, moving on. Next lie.
If you have juice in your fridge right now, look at the back of the container. Does it say citric acid? If it does, that's something you want to avoid. It's a preservative and flavor that's typically made from the mold of GMO corn. Yeah, not from fruit. It can really irritate gut health. You're wasting money on food and drinks that make your family feel worse. Stop doing that and start spending your money on things that will replenish the body, your energy levels, and support conservative companies like Squeezed Juice. Their name is what they are: pure juice squeezed from ripe, delicious fruit like pomegranates and mandarins. Always fresh, never from concentrate, no water added, no GMOs, and no additives or preservatives. To my friends at Squeezed Juice, concentrate is a bad word because concentrate when it comes to juice means you're getting none of the nutrients and vitamins that you want in the first place. It's just a thick, syrupy sugar. Squeezed Juice is truly a tree-to-bottle product made from small farmers in California for the whole family by a family that loves America and hates big food. It gets shipped cold and fresh to your door on dry ice. They have 5 flavors that you can find at their website, shop.squeezedjuice.com, and get 25% off with code ALEX at checkout. That's shop.squeezedjuice.com with code ALEX for 25% off, or find their link in the description. I don't get the cognitive dissonance of the same group of people saying that, all natural is better and all this. Now they're willing to eat completely processed food, which is what a plant-based diet is. All of those products are all processed. Right. And then, they all hate big business. They hate the billionaire corporations and all of this. But the people who are now pumping out all of these plant-based products are places like Subway and McDonald's and Burger King, and somehow they're all okay with that. Nobody seems to see like, hey, what if this is all just a huge money grab?
Well, look, it's like it is a money grab. All this stuff starts with big food, Unilever, which is like Kraft, but in Europe, and we have all these big companies here. It's cheap to sell all of this junk food. It's more expensive to sell milk and eggs and meat, right? It just is. So they want to fill the aisles up with stuff that shelf stable, crappy stuff, and that's what everyone is eating. So it's in their best interest that we keep eating this way. They don't want to see it. And then, look, if you go look at and by the way, this sounds like I wear a tinfoil hat when I talk about this, but you can go look at the AHA, the American Heart Association, or the ADA, the American Diabetes Association. They're bought and paid for by Coke, by Kellogg's, by, these big grain companies. So they have to squint and say, well, grains are heart healthy. They're good for you. There's nothing heart healthy about a grain. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. That was actually started by C.W. Post, right? A guy that makes Post cereal. All of this stuff is just sayings that we believe. I remember when everyone first started having cell phones, they would say, oh, you can't use a cell phone when you're pumping gas because somehow electrically it's going to catch the car on fire. Okay, If that was true, every gas station would have an ex-linebacker sitting there teed up. When someone brought a phone out, they would tackle. But that never happened. But every pump, Exxon, Texaco, Shell, every pump had a thing that says, do not use the cell phone while you're pumping gas. Based on nothing. That was not based on any science. It never happened. No one ever exploded by using a cell phone. Same thing with airliners, right? You would get, 20 years ago, you get on an airliner, you cannot, under any circumstance, use it. It will bring the plane down. Okay, if that was the truth, they would take those away from you when you went through TSA. Hell, they still make us take our shoes off because someone had some piece of a bomb in his shoes back during 9/11. Right? So today we still take, so if these cell phones were so bad, we would still not be able to use them. Yet now you can use them in flight. So what happened? What happened? You see, we're being lied to all the time, but we don't realize it. During COVID, and I don't like to talk much about COVID because people have their opinions, right? But I had to fly out to California from Virginia during COVID. And when I got to the airport, they said, get that mask up, put it on, right? I went through TSA. The airports was like, wear your mask at all times. It's federal regulation. That mask has to be on your face at all times. No ifs, ands, or buts. I had that mask on and tight because I'm not a rule breaker, right? I get on the plane. They're telling each person as we get on the plane, under no circumstances do you pull that mask down at all. Before they even told us to hook our seatbelts, once we were on the plane, they said, listen, FFA rules or FAA rules. Do not take that mask off. Keep it on at all times during this flight. Even if you go to the bathroom, that mask has to be on your face. So man, I said, all right, I got to keep this mask on. As soon as we were at, altitude, the woman comes around. She goes, would you like something to drink? And I was like, I would love something to drink, but I can't drink with this mask on. She goes, oh, if you have a drink, you take it off. Right? So, okay, which is it? Are we supposed to have the mask up or take it down? Because if I'm drinking, does COVID not happen? Right? So you see, we're being lied to all the time. It just takes people like me to go and decipher what the lies are.
If so many of these fake meat products are actually being made by meat companies like Tyson, who is a huge investor in Beyond Meat, how are vegans okay with that? How do they rationalize that?
They don't. Because it fits the end need, right? They don't care where it comes from. Look, there's just as disingenuous as a nice guy. They don't care where the money comes from, right? They're doing this all the time. You got Cargill, you got Tyson, you got all these big meat producers dropping money. So you'll go, well, why were they doing that? Well, when you're Tyson Foods, you give $1 billion to something, it doesn't mean anything. They were hedging a bet. They lost because you can't get anyone to buy this stuff. I don't know if you noticed the stock, but the stock has plummeted and they've raised more cash. It plummeted again. Eventually, people are not going to put anything into this. It's over with. The Beyond Meat thing failed miserably, right? Yet, you think Cargill or you think Tyson is upset? Nah, they got billions. You drop a couple of $100 million here, a couple of $100 million there, you're hedging your bets in case things start going. Look, Ford is doing that right now. They're building electric F-150s. Electric. What's going to happen? Do we know what's going to happen with electric? But every car company is hedging their bets, right? And by the way, it's the Greta Thunbergs of the world, again, I don't mean to keep harping on her, that would say, oh, blood diamonds are bad, and slavery is bad. Now, where do they think all this stuff is coming from to make these batteries, right? Slave labor. But no one's upset about that.
Right.
Give me my electric car.
I think this is what freaks people out, is that every decade there's this new fad of, eat this, don't eat this, stay away from fats. And we had, all the low fat craze that happened in the 90s. Don't eat this, supplement with X, Y, and Z. And yet somehow we're still getting fatter and we're still getting sicker by the day. So what do you believe the solution is to all of this? How do
Well,
Americans know what to trust when it comes to what diet is healthier?
they don't. They don't know what to trust. It's every man for himself at this point. I get on the phone with some of the other top people in this movement of getting people to eat real food again. And sometimes we just get downright depressed and go, what are we doing? Are we making a difference? And I think we are because, look, when I wrote Fitness Confidential 11 years ago, 12 years ago is when I was writing it. It's been out for 11 years. When we were doing that, the word keto didn't exist. Now everyone knows what a ketogenic diet is. Everyone knows what low carb is. People love it. People hate it. You know, so we are making a difference because you can't deny that when people do this, they lose weight and they feel better and they go off of type 2 diabetes medications and they don't have to have the mask on to sleep anymore because of sleep apnea. You know, things change. And we're hoping that there's going to be a groundswell of that.
One of the things that, I think I was on the edge of my seat. My jaw dropped to the floor when I saw you mention in the documentary that the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset, all of them want this global food transformation. And how do they plan on getting everyone in the world to comply with this plant-based vegan diet? Why are the elite so adamant about us eating plants and bugs?
I don't know. I think it's control. You know, they want to just control the narrative. They want to control everything. Look, it you're never going to get people in France to buy into this. These people love food.
Or
Go
like
down
African tribes or any of these places. How do you get
come
these
on.
people
Yeah,
to do
the
this?
Maasai tribe is not going to go for this. They eat meat. They live on meat. You're not going to go to India. I've spent time in India. I went across India giving talks, 10 years ago. And you're not going to get these people to change what they're doing. You're not going to get anybody to change what they're doing, right? This is all aimed at America and, Western Europe. But most of America is not going to pay attention, right? And can you imagine going to Wyoming and tell someone that you're not going to have anything except fake meat?
No, this is what I don't understand when they talk about how they want to implement this global world transformation. How the heck are they going to get it done? The only thing I can think of is it would have to be force. You would have to hold people at gunpoint and say you're eating bugs now.
Right. And no one's going to do that.
Exactly.
All this, hey, we're eating bugs. It's like, come on, what are you doing?
If you follow,
tofu, what are you doing?
Right. If you follow the money in the vegan world, where does it lead?
It leads to, it goes right back to the World Health Organization. It goes back to these globalists. And some of it goes back to, big food, the Unilevers of the world. Look, we made direct connections. We can make direct connections. It's not hidden.
Well, James Cameron, talk about James Cameron and how he's the person that's making a lot of these vegan documentaries. This blew my mind too.
Well, I was going first before James Cameron, Walter Willett over at Harvard takes money directly from Unilever. And then he gets the scientists to squint and come up with what they want to come up with. James Cameron, one of the biggest filmmakers in the world, his wife is a devout vegan and PETA person and the whole thing.
This is the guy who made Titanic for the 90s and the 2000s babies listening.
Yeah, we showed it in the movie. He made this movie, Game Changers, and talked, the whole thing was like, hey, you can do everything you want to do on pea protein made from vegetables, right? You can use this pea protein to be as strong as anyone else. He had all of these athletes that were not as strong as everyone else, number one. And James Cameron, he had, I want to say, I can't remember, don't quote me on this, $30 or $35 million stake in a pea protein company. So it was just a big advertisement. The whole movie was just a big advertisement for him to build up his stock in the pea protein company and then sell it.
Put money in his own pocket.
Yeah. James Cameron's not, look, everybody's out there to make a buck. And they're going to just say whatever it takes to make a buck. And he even got his friend Arnold Schwarzenegger to show up in the movie. And, okay, Arnold Schwarzenegger, let's look at that for a second. The guy was the greatest bodybuilder of all time. By definition, the guy took drugs. He's a drug abuser. He's a bodybuilder. By definition, bodybuilders are drug abusers. Um, Arnold Schwarzenegger went in the movie lying, saying he was a vegan. A week later, after the movie came out, he was showing his refrigerator at home and nothing but meat and eggs and everything else.
Yeah.
People will say whatever they'll just say it. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, Alex.
So for the audience that has vegan or plant-based loving friends and family members, and they are like dying to convince them, you are in a cult, this is a religion, it's not based in any reality, what is like the best way to convince these people that they're living a lie?
You can't. I wish I could tell you that there's a way. When they're in the throes of it, it's like any kind of, look, I've had friends that became vegans, right? And we've lost friendship because I never tried to convince them of anything, but they wouldn't shut up around me.
Yeah.
And at some point you look at them and go, we can't go to dinner anymore. There's no convincing people. They have to come out of it themselves. And we know 80% of the people come out of it right away within 3 months.
Were you ever scared while making a movie attacking this worldview that people would come after you?
Oh yeah. People have, we get threats, I get threatened all the time. It's like I'm a health and fitness guy. I'm a PE teacher. Why are you threatening me? What did I do? Right. I'm just telling the truth, but people get butthurt, and they just threaten.
So you've come out with a lot of movies. You have an amazing best-selling book. Beyond Impossible is mainly what we're talking about today. But what is next in the documentary roster? Are you going to talk about seed oils?
I can't tell you what we're going after, but my thing now is to top what I've done before. But something came, I started thinking about the next thing that's going on in health and fitness this is going to blow your mind.
Tell me.
I'm hoping. I can't tell you.
Give me a hint.
You know what? When the show is over with, I'll tell you.
Oh, the cute servants are going to kill me.
Yeah, I can't. But we've already started working on it. I'm already writing it. As a matter of fact, right there on my desk are notes. So if the camera panned down, you would see notes. I've already started working on the next one. I'm actually doing the first shoot in June. I'm going to Texas to do the shoot. I don't know if that's a giveaway of anything, but I'll be in Austin, Texas doing that first shoot, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
And where can people follow you, find you, so that they know whenever these new documentaries and stuff come out that they can look forward to?
Just Google my name. It's hard to, Vinnie, Vinnie, with an IE, not a Y. Tortorich, Tortorich. Hopefully you guys will put it in the show notes, Alex. But you can find me and you'll find my website. I have a PDF on that website. We gave it away for free over 300,000 times. And we just started charging for it 4 months ago. And I'll tell you this, it's only a $10 charge. And the reason we put a charge on it is because I don't make a dime on that money. There's so many people working here now, and you can understand this. You have a show, right? There's so many people that work for me and my organization now, and we have to pay them something.
Of course.
We have to keep the lights on around here. So I could be a 501(c)(3), just like I could be a nonprofit, because I don't earn a dime from this.
Yeah, I like it. Expose big food. That's the Vinnie nonprofit.
Yeah. And look, I mean, we've thought about going that route, but as long as people give us enough money to keep this free, because I make my money. I'm an industrialist of sorts. I have a vitamin company, I have a foods company, and I have a coffee company. And I never tell people they have to take any of my vitamins, coffee, or food to be healthy, ever. I would never do that. But that's how I'm able to have autonomy. I don't have to lie to people. I can just go, here's the truth, because I'm able to make a living somewhere else.
People will be so upset if I don't ask you, as a celebrity fitness trainer, who your favorite celebrity to train was before I let you go.
I'm going to go with the one that they know the best, Howie Mandel. Because we became friends. You don't become friends with all of them, but Howie was my favorite. He was a few years older than me. We had the same kind of sensibilities. He made me laugh a lot. Over the years, I had a lot of comedians like Bill Engvall from the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, and all those kind of guys. Also very funny. I like working with Bill. I remember that guy being funny. There was actually a rapper. I can't say his name because a lot of these, I signed
NDAs.
NDAs. But there was a rapper way back when, and I would never think it was like, God, this guy's got gold teeth and everything. I don't know if and he was such a smart guy and such a good guy, and really gave back to the community, and always had a good time with him. So over the years, it's a rock star like that too. That I was like, oh, I'll never be friends with this guy. They do a lot of drugs or whatever. This guy was salt of the earth.
What a fun career you've had. I mean,
Yeah,
I love this
was,
because you're always in a position to meet interesting people and then also learn new things. And I think that's kind of the dream.
I wish I could say it was a dream. It all seems like a dream sometimes. And I always tell my wife, if I die suddenly, get rid of my cell phone because all of the names are in that cell phone, and their numbers and everything else. Some of them are so famous that we have them under different names and that kind of thing.
Well, if you ever need somebody to volunteer to go undercover to expose like a chicken nugget plant or something, I will go into the chicken nugget factory and play the part. I'll put a wig on or something.
You would have to have your hair back in a bun and do the whole thing and wear the hairnet. Yeah, I would. Yeah, that would be great.
Vinnie, thank you so much for coming on, talking about all the myths with veganism and all of this stuff. Everybody needs to watch Beyond Impossible and then follow Vinnie online so that you can look forward to his new mystery documentary, which I'm going to find out what it is before you. We are in the middle of a food revolution. We're getting back to the food that God intended for us to eat. And every day I hear from conservatives saying, you've started this journey with me this last year and your family's health has never been better. If you liked this episode, go back, listen to season 4, episode 18 with Denise Minger. She is an investigative journalist who completely dismantled the food pyramid that America used and taught in schools throughout the 90s. She was also a raw vegan before her teeth started to rot out. She is a fascinating story. You are getting 2 Spillover episodes this week. Friday, I sit down with a supermodel, influencer, and editor-in-chief of your favorite fashion and lifestyle online and print publication. That's a hint. We talk about the current state of the fashion industry as well as culture and a little bit of health and wellness because she also founded my favorite cycle tracking app. I get into the popular Red Pill Bro Twitter debacle and debates that people have been having about what age women hit the wall and so much more. It's a gorgeous in-person episode filmed at a stunning location. You can watch it by subscribing to Real Alex Clark on YouTube. So that's where you'll find all the Spillover episodes. I have a few episodes like this one today that have been in the bank that still need to be released, and they were filmed on the old Spillover set. But soon, going forward, every Spillover episode, for the most part, will be shot at various luxury locations so that it's really optimal for viewing. I know that video is like a huge component of podcasting for a lot of you, and you prefer to watch. So this is a huge upgrade for you. And again, that's on the Real Alex Clark YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed and make sure for us to be able to grow and do things like this, you are leaving those 5-star reviews. New episode next Thursday, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, wherever you listen. I'm Alex Clark, and this is The Spillover. Love you, mean it, bye.